Derek Foster stood alone in the center of the arena, his eyes scanning the vast expanse. The ground beneath his boots was cracked and dusty, bathed in the cold light of two suns that hung high above. The air felt thick, and a strange, metallic taste lingered on his tongue. The stands were packed with alien spectators, their eyes glinting with excitement. From every corner of the galaxy, they had come to see what the Earthling could do. Around him, the walls of the arena rose high into the sky, as if they were holding him in, trapping him in this strange world where survival meant playing by rules he didn't understand. The crowd's whispers grew louder, each murmur carried by the wind. He could hear the strange language of the aliens, their voices mixing into a chorus of anticipation. They didn't see a human. They saw an underdog, someone weak, someone who didn't belong, and that was fine by him. He'd been underestimated his whole life. Derek's chest tightened, but he didn't let it show. He had learned long ago that fear was a luxury he couldn't afford. Today wasn't just another fight, it was a test of everything he had, his strength, his wits, his will to survive, and above all, his humanity. "You're going to die out there, Earthling," the trainer's voice echoed from the stands. He was an alien with glowing blue skin, his long, tentacle-like fingers curling into fists. His eyes glowed like twin moons, cold and calculating. The trainer was one of many who had brought Derek to this arena, forced him to fight for their amusement. "That creature is unlike anything you've ever seen," the trainer continued, his voice smooth, almost mocking. "It's faster than you, stronger than you, and it has one purpose, to kill. It'll bite anyone who moves." Derek swallowed hard but didn't break his gaze. He had heard those words before, about the creatures, the tests, the traps. It was all designed to break him. But Derek wasn't like the others. He wasn't like the aliens who thought their power and technology made them superior. They didn't know what it meant to fight when there was nothing left to lose. He clenched his fists, steadying himself. "Bring it on," he muttered under his breath. The creature's roar cut through the air, echoing in his chest like a drumbeat. Derek's heart raced, but he refused to back down. A shadow moved in the far corner of the arena. It was massive, darker than night, its body covered in black scales that seemed to shimmer with deadly intent. The creature's eyes gleamed a sickly green, its mouth wide enough to swallow him whole. The crowd fell silent. Every alien in the stands seemed to lean forward in anticipation, eager to see the human's demise. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Derek stood motionless, feeling the weight of 1,000 eyes on him. It was always the same, the fear, the uncertainty, but this time Derek wouldn't let it control him. This time he was ready. The trainer gave a sharp command, and the creature lunged. It was a blur of motion, faster than anything Derek had ever seen. Its claws raked through the air with terrifying speed, the force of its attack shaking the ground beneath his feet. Derek barely had time to react. He dropped low, rolling to the side as the creature's claws swept past him, missing him by inches. The crowd erupted into a roar. They were not cheering for him, not yet. They were merely watching, waiting for the inevitable. Derek's pulse hammered in his ears, but he stayed calm. He didn't panic. He couldn't afford to. He'd learned that in his time in the pits, the moment you let fear take hold, you were already dead. The creature circled him, its massive body swaying like a predator hunting its prey. Derek stayed still, watching, waiting for the right moment. He knew that the creature's strength was in its speed and power, but its biggest weakness was its predictability. It attacked again, this time with even more force. The ground trembled beneath Derek's feet as the creature's claws slashed through the air. He dodged again, narrowly avoiding the deadly swipe. Sweat ran down his face, his muscles screaming for relief, but he held his ground. "You think you can dodge it forever?" The trainer's voice rang out, a mocking edge to his words. "It's only a matter of time before it catches you." Derek gritted his teeth. The creature was getting more aggressive, more confident. It was playing with him, testing him, seeing if he would break. But Derek wasn't like the others. He wasn't going to give it the satisfaction. He was running out of space, the walls of the arena pressing in on him. The creature was faster, more agile. Every time he dodged one strike, another one came crashing down. He couldn't keep this up forever. Then something shifted. He noticed a flicker of hesitation in the creature's movements. It wasn't much, just a brief pause, but it was enough. The creature wasn't as predictable as it seemed. There was a pattern, a rhythm to its attacks. Derek took a deep breath. It wasn't about outrunning it. It was about understanding it. The trainer had warned him about the creature's speed, its strength, but he hadn't warned him about its mind. The creature's roar echoed again, and Derek knew it was coming. This time he was ready. With everything on the line, Derek didn't move. Not yet. Derek's heart thundered in his chest, his breath coming in quick, sharp gasps. The creature was closing in again, its massive body charging toward him with the force of a freight train. He could see the muscles in its legs coiling, ready to spring. Its claws gleamed like knives, the air around them shimmering with deadly intent. He had no more room to dodge. The walls of the arena loomed closer, trapping him in this deadly game. There was nowhere to run. There was only one choice left. Survive. Derek's mind raced, but his body moved before he even had to think. His legs were a blur as he dropped to the ground, rolling forward just as the creature's claws came crashing down in front of him. The air cracked with the force of the attack. Dirt and dust kicked up around him, stinging his eyes, but Derek didn't stop. He kept moving, using the momentum of his roll to push himself back to his feet. The creature let out a furious growl, its eyes locking onto Derek with hunger. It didn't care about the tricks or the dodges. It wanted him, and it was getting closer with every step. The alien crowd was deafening, their alien voices chanting, cheering, eager for the bloodshed they'd paid to see. But Derek barely heard them. His focus was on the creature. It was fast, its movements so fluid they almost seemed effortless. Every time he thought he had a chance to escape, it was already one step ahead of him. The creature lunged again. This time, Derek was ready. He twisted to the side, barely avoiding the snapping jaws that were aimed right at his throat. He could feel the heat from the beast's breath on his skin, the terrifying proximity of death that always seemed to be just a hair's breadth away. Stay calm, don't panic, focus. The words echoed in Derek's mind like a mantra. He wasn't going to let fear control him. He couldn't afford to, not here, not now. He glanced around. The arena was a circular pit, no way out, no cover, just dirt and stone. The creature was relentless, circling him, waiting for him to make a mistake. But Derek wasn't going to give it that satisfaction. It came again, faster this time, its claws slashing the air. Derek didn't move, not at first. He held his ground, his body tense, waiting for the perfect moment. His mind wasn't thinking about the monster in front of him. It was thinking about the rhythm of the beast's attacks. For a split second, the creature hesitated. It was just a brief flicker, an almost imperceptible pause in its movement, but it was enough. Derek's instincts kicked in. He spun on his heels, grabbing for the creature's outstretched limb. His fingers gripped its rough, scaled skin. The creature roared in surprise, pulling back sharply, but Derek held on, twisting his body as he used its own momentum against it. In a heartbeat, he found himself on the creature's back, his hands gripping the massive spikes along its spine. The crowd gasped in shock. This wasn't the plan. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. But Derek didn't care about their expectations. He was riding the creature, controlling it, and for the first time since the fight began, he felt the slightest sense of power. The creature thrashed wildly beneath him, trying to shake him off, but Derek was holding on tight. He could feel the beast's muscles tensing, ready to throw him off. He wasn't out of danger yet, not even close. With all his strength, Derek shifted his weight, leaning into the creature's movements. He wasn't going to fight it head-on. He wasn't strong enough for that. But he could outmaneuver it. He could make it follow his rhythm. The beast snarled, spinning in a circle, trying to buck him off. Derek's body was tossed like a rag doll, his grip slipping once, but he tightened his hold again. His arms were sore, his palms raw from the creature's scales, but he didn't let go. Not now. Derek's mind raced, finding patterns in the chaos. It's not just a beast, it's a predator. It thinks it's in control, but it's not anymore. The creature's growls turned into frustrated roars as it struggled to free itself from Derek's grip. Every movement was a warning. Derek wasn't just trying to survive. He was playing the long game. Finally, the creature stumbled. For just 1 second it faltered, its huge legs buckling under its own weight. Derek saw the opening, and without hesitation he moved. He dove forward, grabbing the creature's massive head. Its fangs snapped just inches from his face, but Derek wasn't focused on that. He wasn't focused on the danger. He was focused on the creature's weak spot, the soft, vulnerable area just behind its ear. Derek didn't think, he didn't hesitate. He reached out and scratched. The reaction was immediate. The beast stopped thrashing. Its massive body froze. The growl in its throat melted away into a low, confused sound. Derek felt the creature's muscles soften, its wild energy draining. The giant creature, so full of rage just moments ago, now stood still, its massive head cradled in Derek's hands. The crowd fell silent. The arena, once filled with noise, was now eerily quiet. Derek took a step back, his heart pounding in his chest. The creature's eyes, once filled with hunger, were now calm. It blinked, and for a moment it seemed almost docile. The trainer's voice broke the silence. "No one has ever done that," he muttered under his breath. Derek didn't care. He had done the unthinkable. He had turned the tide. The human spirit, strong and defiant, had beaten the odds once again. And for the first time since the fight began, Derek allowed himself a small, quiet smile. The silence that followed the creature's sudden pause was more deafening than any roar it could have made. Derek stood, breathless, his hands still gripping the thick, scaly skin of the beast. The alien crowd watched, their eyes wide with disbelief. In the stands, the alien trainer's face twisted with shock. His mouth opened and closed, like a fish gasping for air, trying to understand what he was seeing. He had never witnessed anything like this before. No one had. The creature, the most feared in the arena, was supposed to kill without hesitation, without mercy. Yet here it was, its angered growl replaced with something softer, almost confused. Derek didn't let go. He couldn't. Not yet. If he loosened his grip even for a second, the creature might remember its true nature. It might attack, and Derek didn't have the strength to fight it off again. He took a slow, steady breath, his heart still hammering in his chest. His muscles ached from the effort, but he kept his focus, staring into the creature's eyes. For a moment he thought he saw something flicker in its gaze. Not hatred, not hunger, but a glimmer of curiosity. "It's thinking," Derek realized. "It's wondering why I'm not running." He didn't know how long he'd been standing there, holding the beast, waiting. The sweat on his brow had dried, leaving a salty sting on his skin. His mind raced through the possibilities, but there was only one thing he knew for sure. He had to keep the creature calm. He had to keep its focus on him, not on the crowd, not on the arena, and certainly not on its instinct to kill. The alien trainer's voice finally broke the silence. "You're wasting time, Earthling," he shouted from the stands, his voice sharp and demanding. "It will bite you the moment you show weakness. Move." But Derek wasn't listening. Weakness? He had none left. Not now. Not after everything he had fought through to get here. The words of the trainer were just noise, echoes of those who had never faced the beast the way he had. The creature shifted beneath him, its massive body trembling slightly. Derek's grip tightened, not out of fear, but out of understanding. He was still unsure of what was happening, but he was determined to see it through. He had one chance. If he failed, he knew there would be no coming back from it. Time seemed to stretch on. The crowd, which had once roared with excitement, now watched in stunned silence. They had expected violence, death, blood. But all they saw now was a human holding onto a monster, its massive head gently cradled in his hands. Derek took another breath, slow and steady. His body felt heavy, exhausted from the constant movement, the constant fight to stay alive. But he couldn't let the exhaustion win. He couldn't, not now. For a brief moment, the creature's glowing eyes softened, and Derek could have sworn it was content. But just as quickly as the thought appeared, it vanished. The creature's muscles twitched, its giant claws flexing, but it made no move to strike. It just stood there waiting, waiting for Derek to do something, anything. And then it happened. Without warning, the creature's tail snapped out, whipping past Derek's side. He ducked instinctively, narrowly avoiding the strike, but his heart lurched with fear. The tail, now swinging wildly, threatened to knock him off. If it hit him, it would break his bones. But Derek didn't fall. He couldn't. The crowd gasped in unison, and the trainer's voice came again, filled with fury. "I told you it will kill you." For a heartbeat, the creature continued to thrash, its fury returning. But Derek held tight, using all his strength to stay attached. His mind raced, searching for something, anything to calm the beast again. Think, he urged himself. You can't lose now. Suddenly, he remembered the trainer's words from earlier. It'll bite anyone who moves. Derek wasn't moving. He wasn't running. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't even pulling away. He was standing there, holding the creature in a way no one else ever had. And in that stillness, something clicked. The creature wasn't used to this calm, this human presence. It wasn't used to someone not being afraid. Slowly, cautiously, Derek took his other hand and placed it gently against the creature's scales, just behind its jaw. The movement was slow, deliberate. He had to show it that he wasn't a threat. The beast stopped moving. Its growl faded into a soft rumble, a deep vibration that resonated through the ground beneath Derek's feet. It was almost like a purr, and for a brief moment, Derek felt a strange connection. Not with the creature, but with something deeper, something primal. The trainer had warned him to stay still, to never move. But what if staying still wasn't the answer? What if the key to surviving wasn't being passive? What if it was about embracing the stillness, letting the creature come to him, not with force, but with patience? Derek exhaled slowly, letting the moment settle in. He scratched behind the creature's ear just where he had felt the soft spot earlier. He wasn't sure why, but it felt right. To his surprise, the creature didn't snap at him. It didn't claw or bite. Instead, it leaned into his touch, its massive head shifting slightly as if enjoying the sensation. Derek's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't believe it. He wasn't just surviving this moment, he was gaining its trust. And then a miracle happened. The creature lowered its head, its body shifting into a more relaxed stance. It was no longer the predator it had been when the fight started. The crowd was dead silent. The trainer's face went pale and his jaw tightened in frustration. Derek felt a strange peace settle over him. He had done the unthinkable. He had tamed the beast, not with force, not with speed, but with something far stronger, patience, understanding. He wasn't just fighting for his life anymore. He was showing the world that humanity had something far greater than strength, something no alien species could ever match. The will to keep fighting, no matter the odds. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The creature stood before Derek, calm now, its massive head lowered as it allowed the human to scratch behind its ear. The crowd in the stands watched in stunned silence. No one moved. No one spoke. The fight that was supposed to end in death had somehow turned into a strange, unspoken truce between man and beast. Derek's heart was still racing, but he didn't dare pull away. If he did, if he showed any sign of fear, the creature might snap back into its violent instincts. He wasn't sure how long this fragile peace would last, but he wasn't going to risk it. But then a voice cut through the stillness. "You're wasting time, Earthling." The alien trainer's voice rang out from the stands, thick with anger. "You think you've won? You think this beast is yours to command?" Derek didn't look up. He kept his hand on the creature's scales, gently rubbing its neck as it continued to nuzzle him. His mind was still spinning, trying to process what had just happened. But he could feel the trainer's anger radiating from above. It was palpable, like a storm ready to break. "You think you can tame it?" the trainer shouted again, his voice rising. "It will bite you the moment you show weakness. You are nothing but prey. It will always be a predator." Derek finally lifted his gaze, his eyes locking onto the trainer. The alien's face was twisted in fury, his hands clenched into fists. "You're a fool," the trainer hissed. "It's not a pet, it's a weapon. It kills and it will kill you. You've made a mistake by trying to treat it like anything less." Derek's heart pounded in his chest, but he didn't let his fear show. He had made a mistake, yes, but not in the way the trainer thought. "I'm not trying to tame it," Derek said quietly, his voice steady. "I'm just showing it I'm not afraid." The trainer scoffed, clearly not understanding. "Fear is natural. It's how the strong survive. You Earthling have no idea what you're up against." Derek didn't argue. He didn't need to. The creature before him was not the same thing it had been when the fight started. He wasn't holding on to some beast driven only by instinct and rage anymore. He was holding something different, something that had in some way accepted him. The trainer continued, his voice laced with venom. "You think this creature will spare you? It's in its nature to kill. It has no loyalty, no emotions. The moment you make one wrong move, it will rip you apart." The creature shifted beneath Derek, its massive muscles twitching as if reacting to the trainer's words. Its eyes, which had been soft just moments before, narrowed again. The low growl started up in its throat, vibrating through Derek's bones. He didn't flinch. He held the beast's gaze, steady and calm. It was true, Derek knew. The creature didn't have loyalty in the way humans understood it. It wasn't here because it wanted to be. It was here because it had been trained to fight, to kill, to obey. It had been forced into a life of violence, just like Derek had been. But Derek didn't believe the creature was beyond change. He didn't believe anyone was. Humans had something that made them different from other species, something that could bridge even the deepest divides. Hope. And hope, Derek had learned, could be more powerful than the fiercest predator. "You're wrong," Derek said, his voice soft but firm. "This creature isn't just a weapon. It's been hurt just like I have. It's been forced into this arena. But that doesn't mean it's beyond redemption." The trainer's eyes blazed. "You don't know what you're talking about. This beast is a force of nature, and you're nothing more than a pitiful human. You can't control it. You can't tame it." Derek shook his head slowly. "I'm not trying to control it. I'm just trying to survive." And in that moment, the crowd seemed to understand. The alien spectators, once eager for blood, now watched in complete silence. They had been expecting a fight, a massacre, but what they were seeing was something entirely different. A human, against all odds, not only surviving but connecting with the very beast they thought could not be tamed. Derek's hand moved from the creature's neck to its back, gently massaging the tense muscles beneath its scales. The creature let out a low sound, a hum almost, as it relaxed under Derek's touch. Its growl faded into a soft purr, a sound so unusual for such a deadly beast. And then, as if in a strange acknowledgement, the creature took a slow step back. Derek didn't move. He didn't want to break the fragile bond they had formed. He held his breath, waiting, wondering if this would be the moment the creature would turn on him. But it didn't. The beast stood, its massive head held low, the tension in its body slowly easing. Derek dared to exhale. He had done it. He had done the impossible. He had calmed the beast. The trainer stood in stunned silence, unable to comprehend what had just happened. The crowd, too, was still, processing the unexpected turn of events. Derek didn't care about their judgment. He wasn't here for their approval. He was here to prove that humans had something that could change the world. The strength to keep going, no matter what. The strength to never give up, even when the odds were impossible. The trainer's voice was lower now, almost a growl of frustration. "You're a fool," he spat. "You'll never survive this." But Derek didn't hear him anymore. He wasn't listening to the trainer or the crowd. He was focused on one thing, survival. And survival, he realized, didn't always mean fighting. Sometimes it meant understanding. The creature, no longer a mindless beast, lowered its head again, as if offering a sign of trust. And Derek, for the first time since entering the arena, allowed himself a small, quiet smile. He wasn't just surviving, he was winning. The arena was filled with a tense, almost unbearable silence. The crowd, once so eager for blood, now watched in stunned disbelief. They had come for a fight, for a spectacle, but what they were seeing was nothing like what they had expected. Derek stood with one hand on the creature's scaled neck, his breath still heavy but steady. The beast was calm now, its massive body relaxed under his touch. The creature's glowing eyes flickered, not with the rage they had once held, but with something almost curious. It was as if the world had shifted. The impossible had happened. Derek hadn't just survived, he had done something no one had believed possible. He had connected with the beast. The creature, once a savage killer, now stood still, its powerful frame no longer a threat. But as the minutes passed, Derek felt the weight of the trainer's anger growing heavier. The alien's eyes burned with fury from his seat in the stands. His hands, clenched into fists, trembled with the need to regain control. "You think you've won?" The trainer's voice boomed across the arena, sharp and accusing. "You think you've tamed it, Earthling? This is nothing but a trick. You've only delayed the inevitable. You'll die out there, and this beast will be the one to tear you apart." Derek didn't flinch. He had heard the words before. It wasn't the first time someone had told him he couldn't win. He had heard it from the moment he had arrived on this alien world, thrown into the gladiatorial pits to fight for his life. They always underestimate us, Derek thought, his heart steady as the creature gently nuzzled his hand. They think we're weak, but we're not. The crowd muttered, their voices mixed with confusion and uncertainty. Some of them still wanted blood. They didn't understand what was happening. Others seemed to be watching with a new kind of awe, unsure if they should be cheering or holding their breath. Derek felt the creature shift slightly beneath him. It was as though it was waiting for something. But Derek wasn't sure what it was waiting for. He wasn't sure what came next, either. The trainer, still seething with anger, yelled again, his voice laced with venom. "You have no idea what you've just done. It's not loyalty you've earned. It's fear. This creature fears what it doesn't understand, and the moment you show weakness, it will strike." The words stung, but Derek didn't respond. He didn't need to. The trainer didn't understand the bond that had formed between him and the creature. Fear might have been the beginning, but trust had followed, and that was something far stronger. The creature suddenly stood taller, its great head moving to face the trainer in the stands. Its eyes narrowed, a low rumble rising from its throat. Derek felt the shift. The beast wasn't reacting to him anymore. It was reacting to the trainer's threats. Derek knew this could go one of two ways. He could continue to hold the creature steady and hope for the best, or he could risk everything and make his move. The trainer's harsh words echoed in the arena. You think this is over? You think you've earned this creature's trust? Fool, this will be your last moment. It was in that instant that Derek made a decision. He wasn't just going to survive this fight, he was going to end it. With one final, deep breath, Derek stepped forward. His hand moved from the creature's neck to its massive head. The beast flinched slightly, but Derek spoke softly to it, his voice steady. I've earned your trust, and I'm not afraid of you. The words were simple, but they carried power. He wasn't begging for mercy. He wasn't pleading. He wasn't trying to avoid the inevitable. He was challenging the inevitable. The creature's eyes locked onto him, and for a heartbeat, Derek wondered if he had made a mistake. But then something changed. The creature, once so full of rage and hunger, now seemed to calm further, its powerful frame relaxing under Derek's touch. Derek's hand moved slowly down the creature's snout, gently stroking the thick scales. The crowd was still silent. Even the trainer seemed to be waiting, unsure of what was happening. Derek could feel the sweat dripping down his neck, but he kept his hand steady, refusing to show fear. And then, with a soft grunt, the creature lowered its head even further, almost to the ground. The trainer's eyes widened in shock. No, this can't be happening, he muttered. You've broken it. Derek smiled, but it wasn't a smile of victory. It was a smile of understanding. He had done what no one had believed possible, not because he was stronger, faster, or smarter, but because he had learned to connect. He had learned that there was more to survival than just fighting. There was understanding. The creature, once a mindless weapon, was now something more. It wasn't just listening to Derek, it was responding. The trainer's words became frantic. You don't know what you're doing. This is a war machine, not a pet. It was made to destroy. Derek's smile grew. Maybe it was, he said softly, but it doesn't have to be anymore. And in that moment, the unthinkable happened. The creature's giant tail, which had once been a weapon of destruction, now gently swept the ground in front of Derek, almost like a giant cat stretching. It was a sign, simple, unmistakable. The trainer's voice cracked with frustration. No, this can't happen. I'm not going to let you control it. He stood from his seat, shouting orders to the guards. But Derek wasn't listening to him anymore. His hand was on the creature's head, its enormous eyes locked onto his. The beast was still, quiet, and for the first time, Derek felt that strange, unspoken bond solidify. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was winning. The crowd in the arena remained frozen, their eyes wide, unsure of what to make of the scene unfolding before them. The creature, once a symbol of deadly force, now stood still, its enormous body relaxed and calm. Derek, a human who had been thrown into this pit to die, stood at its side not as a victim, but as a partner. It was a sight no one had ever expected to see. The alien trainer's face was twisted in disbelief, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles had turned white. His eyes, wide with rage, locked onto Derek with an intensity that could melt stone. You think you've won? The trainer's voice shook, a mixture of fury and fear. You think that thing is on your side now? It's not loyalty you've earned, it's fear. And when it realizes what you've done, it will tear you apart. Derek didn't respond. He didn't need to. His calmness was more than enough to tell the trainer that he wasn't afraid. The creature shifted slightly, a deep, rumbling growl vibrating through its chest. Derek didn't flinch. Instead, he gently placed his hand on its thick neck, letting his fingers run over the rough scales. The beast's growl quieted to a soft hum, and Derek felt its muscles soften under his touch. The tension in the air eased. You're wrong, Derek said quietly, his voice steady but strong. This creature isn't here out of fear, it's here because it chose to be. The trainer's eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of doubt in them now. He could see the change in the beast. It wasn't just following commands anymore. It wasn't the same mindless force of destruction it had been when the fight started. It was different. The crowd, sensing the shift, began to murmur. The once loud cheers for blood had turned into whispers of confusion and even a few gasps of awe. They had expected death. They had expected a spectacle of violence, a fight to the bitter end. Instead, they were witnessing something entirely unexpected. Humanity surviving not by strength alone, but by understanding. The trainer's frustration grew. He took a step forward, raising his voice so everyone could hear. This is a mistake, he warned, his voice sharp. You cannot tame this beast. It is a weapon, nothing more. The moment you lower your guard, it will remember what it is and it will kill you. Derek didn't look at him. His focus was on the creature. He could feel its body shifting beneath his hands, its muscles twitching as it settled into a more relaxed stance. The battle was far from over, but something had changed. Derek had done the impossible. He had proven to the creature that he was not a threat, and in doing so, he had earned its trust. Derek's fingers moved slowly, scratching just behind the creature's massive ear. The beast leaned into the touch, its eyes closing for a moment in a rare show of peace. Derek smiled, a small, quiet smile, the kind that held all the weight of what he had fought for. "Look at it," the trainer hissed. "It's nothing but an animal, a wild thing, and you human have no idea what you're doing." But Derek did. He wasn't trying to control the beast. He wasn't trying to break it or bend it to his will. He was simply showing it something no one else had shown it before: kindness, patience, and most importantly, understanding. For the first time, Derek realized that he wasn't just fighting to survive anymore. He was fighting to prove something bigger. To show that even in the darkest of places, even when everything seemed stacked against him, there was still a way to win. Not by force, but by the strength of the human spirit. And in that moment, something even more unexpected happened. The creature's massive head slowly turned, its eyes locking onto the trainer. The low rumble started again, but this time it wasn't a threat. It was a warning. The beast was no longer listening to the trainer's commands. It had made its choice. It was no longer a weapon in the trainer's arsenal. It had become something more, a living creature with its own will. The trainer took a step back, his face pale with disbelief. He had been so sure that the creature was unstoppable, that it could never be tamed. He had been wrong, and he knew it. Derek, feeling the power shift in the arena, turned to face the trainer. His voice was low, but it carried across the arena. "You don't understand. This creature isn't just a weapon. It's a living being just like you, just like me." The trainer opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He couldn't argue with what he was seeing. Derek had done the unthinkable. He had shown the beast a different path, and now it had chosen to follow him. The crowd, once silent, erupted into mixed reactions. Some still wanted to see violence. Some were too shocked to speak. But for the first time since the beginning of the fight, Derek could hear something different in the air, a murmur of respect. The trainer finally found his voice, his words coming out in a hiss. "This isn't over. You may have won this round, but you will never control it." But Derek wasn't listening. He didn't need to hear the trainer's threats anymore. He had already won. The creature, still standing beside him, let out a low, rumbling growl, this time not as a threat, but as an affirmation. It was a bond that had been formed not through violence or dominance, but through mutual understanding. Derek had shown it a way forward, and it had accepted him. Derek smiled, a real smile this time. "Maybe not," he said, his voice calm and unwavering. "But it's not about control, it's about trust, and that's something no one can take away." With that, he turned and walked toward the edge of the arena, the creature following him step for step. The crowd parted, unsure of what to make of the scene, but Derek didn't care. He had done the impossible, and in doing so, he had proven something far greater than survival. He had shown that humanity could win, not through strength, but through understanding.